If hardship meant Allah didn't love you, then the people Allah loved most would have lived the easiest lives, but they didn't. Look at who actually suffered the most in this world. Not the careless, not the heedless, not the people who lived as though Allah did not exist. The prophets, the most beloved human beings to ever walk the earth, lived some of the hardest lives recorded in human history. Ibrahim, peace be upon him, thrown into a fire by his own people, commanded to leave his wife and infant son alone in the desert, commanded later to sacrifice that same son. Yusuf, peace be upon him, betrayed by his own brothers, thrown into a well, sold into slavery, falsely accused, imprisoned for years for a crime he did not commit. Ayyub, peace be upon him, afflicted with illness so severe that the people around him slowly abandoned him. Years of suffering, years of patience. And the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, orphaned before the age of 6, stoned in Ta'if until his feet bled, boycotted, starved, exiled from his own city. He buried more of his own children than any father should ever have to bury. If suffering were evidence of Allah's distance, these are the last people on earth who should have suffered, and yet they suffered the most. So either our understanding of love is wrong, or our understanding of hardship is wrong. Let me suggest that it is the second one. We have inherited somewhere along the way a quiet and unspoken belief that a good life is a smooth one, that if Allah loves you, He will make things easy. And so when things become hard, when the diagnosis comes, when the marriage struggles, when the money runs out, when the prayer for a child goes unanswered year after year, a dangerous question creeps in. What did I do to deserve this? Or worse, does Allah even care? I want to offer you a different framework entirely, one built not on assumption, but on the actual pattern of how Allah has dealt with the people closest to Him throughout all of human history. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "The magnitude of the reward is in accordance with the magnitude of the trial. And when Allah loves a people, He tests them." Read that again. When Allah loves a people, He tests them. Not, when Allah is angry with a people, He tests them. The test is not the absence of love. The test is sometimes the consequence of it. We already understand this principle in ordinary life. Not every difficulty is evidence of neglect. Sometimes the very things that shape us are the things we would never have chosen for ourselves. Allah knows this better than anyone. There is a hadith that reframes this even further. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, "No fatigue, nor disease, nor sorrow, nor sadness, nor hurt, nor distress befalls a Muslim, even if it were the prick of a thorn, but that Allah expiates some of his sins for that." Even the prick of a thorn, the smallest pain, is not wasted. It is doing something, even when you cannot see what. This changes the entire question you ask when hardship arrives. The question stops being, "Why is this happening to me?" and becomes, "What is this doing for me that I cannot yet see?" I want to return to Yusuf, peace be upon him, because his story contains something almost nobody points out. At the end of his life, after the betrayal, the well, the slavery, the false imprisonment, he becomes one of the most powerful men in Egypt. And when his brothers stand before him, terrified, expecting punishment, he says to them, "No blame will there be upon you today. Allah will forgive you." Then he says something even more remarkable. He does not say, "You did this to me." He says, "Indeed, my Lord is most subtle in achieving what He wills." He looked back at the betrayal, the well, the slavery, the prison, and saw the hand of Allah arranging every piece of it towards something he could not have seen at the time. This is what hardship looks like from the other side of it. Not always immediately, not always in this life even, but the pattern is consistent across every story we have been given. The hardship was never separate from the plan. It was the plan. Now, I want to be careful here. This is not meant to minimize pain. Allah does not ask you to enjoy hardship. He does not ask you to pretend it doesn't hurt. Even the prophets wept. Even the prophets felt the full weight of their trials. Yaqub, peace be upon him, cried for his missing son for years until his eyes grew weak from grief. Grief is not a lack of faith. Patience is not the absence of pain. It is continuing to trust Allah in the middle of the pain. So, if you are in the middle of something hard right now, something that feels unfair, something that feels too heavy, something that makes you quietly wonder if you have been forgotten, Consider a different possibility. What if this is not evidence of distance? What if this is evidence that you have been placed on the same path as the people Allah loved most? The path was never supposed to be easy. It was supposed to be formative. And one day, in this life or the next, you may look back at this exact moment the way Yusuf looked back at the well, and finally see the hand that was holding you the entire time. If this reached something in you, share it with someone who is in the middle of something hard right now. Not for the channel, for them. Jazakallahu khairan.